The United Conservative Party will be choosing its new leader on October the 6th. Now, one of the leading candidates to succeed Jason Kenney as Premier is Fort McMurray-Lac-La-Biche MLA and former Wildrose leader, Brian Jean. Brian, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thanks very much. A pleasure to be here.
Now, the last time we chatted during the first UCP leadership contest, I asked you if you're going to take your ball and go home if you didn't win the leadership. So let me ask you again this time, Brian. Will you quit provincial politics if you don't win this time around?
Well, are you asking me if I have to stay forever in politics, or are you saying to me that if, 3 of my family members die and I'm the executor and I have to go back to take care of 3 local businesses that employ 25 families, should I go back or should I let them, close down and not worry about my parents and my family? And I'm just saying to you, there's other things besides politics in my life. And I went back in a situation, I had 3 close family members die within a space of a year of me leaving politics. I had my wife medevac to Edmonton and almost lost her and our child. Listen, folks, things happen that are more important than politics. For instance, family. We had a lot of health things going on. It depends on the circumstances. It depends if my boss passes me in the hallway every day for 4 months and doesn't say, "Hey, Brian, how's it going?" If he doesn't talk to me or she doesn't talk to me for 4 months, you know what? I might take my ball and go home. It all depends who the leader is and how the leader treats the other people that were in the leadership contest.
So you'd be willing to stay on as MLA and support the new leader then?
Absolutely. I absolutely will, especially if it's me. That would be awesome, because I think with my 10 years of federal politics, my 10 years as a litigator, even constitutional law, and my 3 years as an MLA and leader of the opposition, I know how to unite people. Remember, during that period of time that I was the leader of the Wildrose, I had a couple of wild MLAs. I never had to kick anybody out of my caucus, and nobody quit my caucus. I had to suspend somebody just for 30 days, but that was a different issue. That was, to be honest, Eric Fildebrand, who is a well-known independent thinker, and another person in my caucus for that period of time was Drew Barnes. These people were empowered by me. They were united by me, and I can do it again. I took the Wildrose from 2 MLAs and took it up to 20, and then we stayed together, and we're the official opposition. When the other parties were disintegrating around us, we stayed there, and we were solid, and we stood up for Albertans and fought the carbon tax, fought Bill 6, made sure that we stood against Notley and Trudeau, and I think we were a very effective opposition. And now I've got my personal affairs in order. I am a business person for 30 years, and I have several businesses still up in northern Alberta, but I'm trying to deal with that. I have good people running them right now, and I hope that they can stay and be as profitable as they could be. But the truth is that I'm focusing everything I possibly can on politics, because nothing is more important than Alberta politics today. We've got what's happening with Justin Trudeau and our attack on our autonomy here in Alberta, and the attack on our very way of life. And I think we have to stand up against it. That's why I'm coming back to politics, so I can be that voice that we thought we heard, but then there was no action. I'm going to take action. On day number 1, I'm going to serve notice on the other premiers and the Prime Minister, Section 46 legal notice that we want to go to constitutional negotiations. And according to the reference case on paragraph 69, we get the opportunity to do so, and the Supreme Court of Canada will enforce that for us. So that's what we need to do. We need to go open the Constitution, have that discussion. And you know what? Last night, we had a debate in Eastern Alberta, and it was so good to see a couple of the other candidates come on my side and say, yes, we're going to have to open up the Constitution, and admit that. So, folks, that's the only way we can do things. That's the only way we can fix things, is we have to sit around the table with the other people involved, and that's the other premiers and the Prime Minister, and try to fix it, because it's not working right now. Canada's broken, but I think we can fix it. I think we can.
Now, many of us here in Alberta, Brian, are quite concerned over the doctor shortage here in our province. What's your plan for addressing the issue should you become Premier?
Well, immediately allow the 700 nurse practitioners to start doing what they were trained to do, and to get to the table and negotiate something immediately and get them working so they can start practicing. And they're not practicing right now. Also, to make sure we take our nursing situation and then try to increase our nurses by 30 to 40% in the short term. How we do that is we, without spending any more money, right now 120% of the wage of nurses is in overtime. That's right. We spend more on overtime than we spend on wages. We could literally give our nurses a 10% raise, double the amount of nurses, and spend the same amount of money, and not burn out our nurses, not have them flee the province for other jurisdictions that give people good quality of life and protect and stand up for nurses, doctors, and teachers. These are the pinnacles of our community, and we need to stop treating them like they are the people that keep our communities together. They are the pillars of which our communities are usually founded on. And I know how important they are in rural Alberta. And I can tell you, I haven't had a doctor, my own doctor, for 30 years in Fort McMurray. So I know what it's like to have a doctor shortage. I promise you. Fort McMurray is one of those places where we have a huge number of people come from outside of our province and utilize our services, and the locals just are left behind on a lot of cases.
A number of municipalities, including your region of Wood Buffalo, have expressed concern with the province centralizing the EMS Dispatch. Now, officials say it's in an effort to save around $6 million annually. A number of mayors say it's simply not working since it's taking ambulances far too long to arrive at residences, especially in the rural areas. Now, would you decentralize and give the power back to the municipalities?
Immediately.
And why would you do that?
Because it'll save people's lives and respond quicker. Somebody in downtown Calgary, Edmonton, does not know where Anzac, Alberta is. They have no idea about local geography. And we need to make sure that we have people that are locally concerned about what's going on. And we have people that are be able to dispatch so they understand locations, they understand specifics, they work more quickly. There's no question that the more authority at the local level, the better the response time, the better the concern is going to be. And frankly, the better you're going to increase the resources or decrease the resources depending on what your needs are. Somebody in Calgary doesn't know what I need in Fort McMurray, nor do they know what you need in Lethbridge, and I'm going to decentralize it immediately.
Now, there was a serious push by Premier Jason Kenney to have our own provincial police force. Brian, where do you stand on the issue? I mean, many Albertans I've chatted with are quite happy with the RCMP doing the job here in Alberta.
Oh my, I'm happy with the RCMP doing the job they do for the communities they do it in, and I think they should continue to do that as long as those communities want them to do that. You see, up there's a sign that says autonomy for Albertans. I mean that. Autonomy means freedom of choice. That means that if my body, my choice, but it also means if communities want to have the freedom of choice to pick the RCMP, which is a premium police force, and I've heard as much as $250,000 an officer per year. If they want that premium police force, they should have the opportunity to have that premium police force. But if they don't, they have an opportunity to have part of a provincial police force, part of a city police force. We currently have Calgary and Edmonton and Lethbridge City Police. We have other police forces around the province, and we have Indigenous police forces, and it's growing. I think choice and opportunity will get us, frankly, better outcomes. And for the more competition we have, the more options we have, the better the prices are going to be, and frankly, the better the service is going to be. And that's why I believe in freedom of choice. That's why I believe that we should keep the RCMP, and if communities want to hire them to do the work that is so important, let's do it. But my major concern on this whole policy issue is really, truly, are we going to keep enough police officers? Because I don't think we have enough police officers on the ground right now in rural Alberta. I will tell you that I keep hearing stories about people chasing people that are stealing quads or snowmobiles or trucks or whatever out of their yard. It is not acceptable. We need a better response time on the ground by police officers. I spent 10 years in the justice system here in Alberta, practicing law, and I can tell you I have some great ideas on how to improve the justice system and not just make it available to people who have money. Because right now, that's what it appears to me, that if you have money, you can get justice, but otherwise, it's very unlikely.
Now, a number of law-abiding gun owners, Brian, are angry at the Trudeau Liberals over Bill C-21. They say it's really doing nothing to address gun violence in our country and the gangs. They should be going after the gangs instead. Those, especially in rural Alberta, are very upset. How do you see it with Bill C-21?
I see it the same way. I was part of the government for Harper that voted to end the long gun registry. I was very proud to do that. I'm a sports gun owner. I also have restricted weapons permits since I was, I think, 18 or 19 years old. I'm one of the most vetted people on the entire planet, as are all Canadian gun owners, because I will tell you, they check everything to make sure that we're adequately trained and skilled and not dealing with any mental stresses around us. And I think that right now it's a total infringement. And what I would do is, I don't like stop work orders or, work to rule situations. But in this particular case, we have to slow things down as much as possible and hope that we get a conservative government in Ottawa that understands that the people that own these rifles and duck hunters and sports shooters are not the people that are causing the problems. The people causing the problems are criminals who are not going to obey the law. They are going to bring the guns in from the United States, which they are currently doing, and they are not going to obey any law in relation to what they do. And those are the people that sell the guns to the people that go out and do these horrific crimes. We have to make sure that we have better mental health in our hospitals, but also my proposal is to bring mental health training into grade 6 plus up to grade 12, a half an hour mandatory a week, so that our children can have training at the very youngest possible age on how to reach in a toolbox and pull out that tool that they need to deal with that mental stress, whether it is a death in the family or a separation or a divorce of their parents, or people need more mental health training. And right now, I believe we're in an epidemic state.
So, Brian, let's also talk about your plan for tackling crime and the opioid crisis in many regions of the province. Stats Canada says Lethbridge is right up there when it comes to the crime severity index. How would you, as a premier, work with the municipalities in addressing crime?
You know, it is an ongoing problem. I was in Lethbridge last week and I saw the tent cities. I saw what was going on. I do understand the dilemma there. I'm very concerned about it. I've been searching and looking at other opportunities around the world as far as empirical data to find out how other jurisdictions deal with these situations successfully, because that's the key. You know, most of the time, the people that commit crimes are either young people, you know, under the age of 18 or 19, or people that safe addiction, you know, have addiction problems or mental illness, or frankly, poverty. And as a province, we have to deal with those issues firsthand. And I think the underscoring situation is frankly mental health and education in our schools, and to make sure that we bring as many people as we possibly can up as far as we can, so that they are educated, they are trained, they have the ability to get jobs and success. And in the meantime, what we have to do is have more officers on the street that have training on mental health issues. And you know, some of the proposals that I think are in response to the provincial police force, in particular the social workers. You know, I think they had a proposal of 60 or 70 social workers that would be hired with the provincial police force. Well, I don't think we have to stop hiring them just because we don't do a mandatory provincial police force. I think we should look at getting that opportunity so they can work with police officers firsthand and deal with mental stresses and mental health the way it should be on the ground with the people that are committing a lot of the crimes.
Brian, a number of seniors who we've chatted with here on Bridge City News say they really feel neglected by their governments. Now, you visited a Lethbridge Senior Centre recently. What were some of the concerns that our seniors shared with you?
Inflation. They talked about prices going up, whether it's groceries, whether it's appliances, whether it's fixtures. And that's why I proposed a royalty-free gasoline and diesel program. You know what? We own the oil and diesel here in Alberta. Why are we paying royalties on it to our own government so they can go spend it? So I'm proposing that we would do royalty-free oil and gasoline for all of the oil, for all the gasoline and diesel that we consume here in Alberta. 380,000 barrels a day is what we consume here. That's a lot of gas and diesel. But remember, that money comes out of Albertans' pockets, goes into the Alberta government, and then we pay equalization payments on that money. So I'm going to stop that, first of all, which will leave more money in Alberta and more money for Albertans. But it'll also lower it. For instance, in a couple of months ago, we had prices that it would have been about 30 cents a liter to remove the fuel tax and also the royalties on Albertans' oil and diesel, which is what I promised to do if I become premier, and I will do that. And it will mean the lowest prices of gasoline and diesel in Canada. It'll also mean that groceries will go down, appliances will go down, all those things that come in on trucks, the price will go down. All those things that come in on planes, the price will go down. All those things that come in for trains will also come down. And you know what? This will become a hub for airlines, for transportation companies, for jobs for Albertans. And that's why I think lower prices are better, because it keeps money in Albertans' jeans and makes sure we don't send it to Ottawa. The other thing is transmission and distribution charges for electricity. We're going to have surpluses over the next few years, and we need to pay down the debt for sure. But until those long-term bonds become due, we should use those surpluses and the interest derived from that to help Albertans with transmission and distribution charges. They are outrageous right now. We've overbuilt hugely in the past. Our governments have, both PC and NDP. And we have to stop that overbuild. And what we need to do is focus on making sure that Albertans can afford those huge distribution charges, those huge transmission charges, which we're paying right now, primarily in rural Alberta as a majority, but we're paying it right across the province. So what I'm saying is, let's lower costs as much as we can. The other thing we need to do is look at affordable housing. I'm a big believer in tripartite agreements and making sure that we work with groups like the Salvation Army, other groups. I'm a believer, and I know that there are a lot of really good groups out there that do a lot of work, and they do it for nothing. They do it because they love their Lord, and they want to do something, or they love their God and they want to do something. And there's amazing groups right across the world that do it. And we need to partner with those groups. We need to make sure that the government funding gets the biggest bang for the buck. And let's utilize those NGOs and the other groups that are available right now. And let's make sure we get good housing that then is going to have good management afterwards, because our seniors, frankly, for what they did for us in this country and what we have today, I think we should treat them a lot better than what we do. And we can't rely on Ottawa for it. Let's face it, Justin Trudeau is not going to help us. We need to help ourselves and our seniors right here. And I'm going to do that as Premier if I get that privilege.
So, Brian, we only have about 30 seconds left here, but I wanted to talk to you a bit about agriculture. It's a big part of our economy here in southwestern Alberta. Farmers are angry at the Trudeau Liberals for recommending they reduce fertilizer use. How would you stand up to Ottawa and support our farmers?
Well, the first thing is I wouldn't obey that particular law because it's an infringement on our jurisdiction under Section 92 of the Constitution. As I've mentioned quite a few times about the Constitution, we need to open it. People think it's a pipe dream. It is not. I litigated for 10 years. It's an agreement. We can go and we can renegotiate it. And every province in Canada right now wants to do it. They want to stop the pipeline. They've all joined the pipeline appeal. They want to open up the Constitution in relation to healthcare funding. There's a lot of provinces that are not happy with the distribution of votes across the country and corresponding politicians. There's a lot of things we need to do. And the only way we're going to fix any of this is, frankly, to open up the Constitution, give them on day number one, I've said I will give them a Section 46 notice under the Constitution, which is actually laid out in paragraph 69 of the reference case from Quebec. And let's face it, the Supreme Court of Canada thought they were laying the path for Quebec to do certain things. So they laid out the rules. And now Albertans are going to take advantage of it. We got a 62% vote on the referendum, and that referendum is the authority to open up the Constitution for negotiations. So that's what I'm going to immediately do. That's why I came up with the referendum suggestion when I was the leader of the Wild Rose. That's why I undertook a study with economists across Canada, and that's why I suggested a referendum was the only way to do that. Jason Kenney did that for us. Now let's go the next step. He didn't. I will.
UCP leadership candidate and Fort McMurray-Lac-La Biche MLA Brian Jean, thanks so much for joining us today from Calgary.
My pleasure.